What is going on, Bolt fam? We are another week closer to the regular season beginning. If you don't already know, my name is Taylor and I'm the host of the Electric Edge podcast on YouTube. In this episode, we're going to talk about the preseason game against the Rams, a quick recap. We're going to talk about this weekend's matchup against the 49ers and what the 53-man depth chart is going to look like as of next week. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the Electric Edge podcast on YouTube. Follow me on X at Electric Edge Pod. And as always, leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Always love to hear Chargers fans' opinions. So, with that being said, let's dive into this episode. We had the matchup against the Rams on Saturday. The Chargers lost 23-22. A game they should have won, but their defense collapsed I would say their defense collapsed in the last couple minutes of the game. It almost gave me some PTSD of prior years where the Chargers just could not close games. So hopefully that is not a trend. I think it's just a product of having third string defensive players out there. I hope to see a better conclusion to the game on Saturday against the 49ers. Also, I will be at the game against the 49ers, so if you are going to the preseason finale, let me know in the comments. I'll be walking around the tailgate areas around the stadium, grabbing some content to put out on YouTube. So if you see me walking around, say hi. I'll ask you a few questions, a few statements about what you're looking forward to most about the Chargers season, and we'll put it on the show. But let's get back to the Rams game. Justin Herbert got his feet wet finally in the preseason. He looked good. He hit Ladd McConkey down the middle of the field. Then he hit KLS down the sideline, which is a great thread in the needle pass. He should hit QJ going down the sideline too. The ball got tipped. And just talking about that QJ play, was it a dirty hit? It was definitely helmet-to-helmet contact. I don't think the helmet-to-helmet contact was the reason why he got knocked out. I think the impact to the ground, and if you watch the video, he hits his head. I think that's where he got his concussion. What I've read so far out of training camp is that he is still in concussion protocol. I think they said the timetable is 1 to 2 weeks, so that's something to keep an eye on. That should lead us right up to the game in Brazil. So it's probably going to be a game time decision whether he's going to play or not. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's jump into the good and the bad from the Rams game on Saturday. So first, let's talk about PFF grades. So from the offensive side, with a minimum of 10 snaps, our top 5 are Trey Harris with 85.3, Ladd McConkey with 83.5, Trey Lance at an 80.6, Herbert at a 77.5, and KLS at 75.7. That's what we want to see on the offense. We want to see our big players making plays, being productive. It's going to be really fun to watch this offense this year. Now, it remains to be seen how this offensive line is going to hold up with Rashawn Slater gone. But if they can keep Justin upright and give him a little bit of time, this offense is going to cook. Also, watching Hampton, he had, I think, 1 or 2 runs. I think it was the second run of the game. He was just dragging defenders with him. I mean, he's a beast. I can't wait to see him run and just dismantle the defense. So that's another, he's not listed on here, but I thought his second run of the game was very impressive. I think he tried like 3 or 4 defenders with them. Super cool to see. All right, so let's talk about the worst from the offense. These are second string, but 3 out of the 5 worst PFF offensive players are offensive linemen. Branson Taylor is at 26.3. DeLavion Campbell is at 33.2. Carson Barnhart, 33.2. Corey Stewart, 47.2. And Kamani Vidal is 51.7. So Bolts from the Blue put this out. It says, the backup and tier bloggers are not having a fun time this preseason. Barnhart posted a literal 0.0 pass block grade against the Rams. Taylor wasn't much better at 0.9. You rarely see grades that low for any player in any regard, and the Chargers had 2 of them in this one game. That's rough. Vidal didn't have his best performance either. I still think he's going to be the third string running back. I think just from an experience level and being in the offense a second year. I also think Haskins, even though he did not play on Saturday, he will be part of this offense as well. I think he's going to be more on special teams. But we'll go through the depth chart here in a minute. So let's talk about the defense. This is from Bolts from the Blue. Okay, so on the defensive side, our top 5 best defenders, we got Tony Jefferson, 86.2, Miles Purchase, 71.3, Troy Dye at 71.3. Jasir Taylor, which is astonishing, 70. And Kanai Mauga at 69.9. I agree with this part in this article. So it says Taylor's grade is an odd one to me because it looked like he was the culprit of letting up a 38-yard touchdown pass, but this grade tells me he was not the guy responsible for it, or else it wouldn't be this high. I thought it was a continuation of last year from him. I think he'll be on the 53-man because of special teams, but I hope we have some other options at corner. Let's put it that way. So let's talk about the worst. Jalen Jones at 31.9. Junior Colson once again with a bad performance at 34.5. Naquan Jones, 41.7. Gamron Randolph at 46.5. And Kylan Gidry at 53.8. The article says here, Colson continued to be a poorly graded player most weeks. In the preseason and regular season, it started to become worrisome. He was supposed to be ready-made for Jesse Minter's defense for the Chargers, and for whatever reason, doesn't seem like it's only injuries keeping him from performing well. I agree with that. He has not had a good preseason so far. I don't know if he's going to make the roster. We'll go through that. But there's definitely better linebackers that have been on the roster right now that are playing. So it'll be interesting to see how Colson makes his way onto the roster. So all in all, from Saturday's game, I thought it was a great showing by the offense. Trey Lance has the QB2 spot locked up. It's going to be interesting to see what the Chargers do with Heinicke. Today, which is Wednesday, there have been a flurry of trades throughout the NFL. I saw some defensive tackles get traded, some wide receivers get traded. So it'll be interesting to see as the rosters shed down if the Chargers cut Heinicke or they find a trade partner for him. I think there's some value on the trade market for him, especially if you want a veteran backup. But I think the way Trey Lance has played, he's got this job solidified as QB2. So good on him. So let's jump into the depth chart because this will play into Saturday's game. Hopefully the news comes out that we'll see more of the first team offense and defense play. And just a side note on the Rams game, our first string defense did not look good in the first drive of the game against Stetson Bennett. Now, it is their first time out there cohesively in a preseason game. I get that. But they just didn't look good. Stetson Bennett just went down the field on them. So I'm hoping that the first string plays multiple series on Saturday and it's a better performance than what we saw against the Rams. All right, so let's jump into the unofficial depth chart. So this was released yesterday, and let's go through it together. All right, quarterbacks, it's a given. Justin Herbert. So it says backups is Trey Lance or Taylor Heinicke and DJ Lele. My guess, like I said, my prediction is going to be it's going to be Trey Lance at QB2. I could see DJ being a QB3 on the practice squad, but I think they find a trade partner and part with Taylor Heinicke. Running backs, they have Najee Harris listed as the starter. He's not starting. I don't even think he's practiced. Omarion Hampton's going to be RB1. I think Kamani Vidal is going to be RB2 going into this weekend and also into week 1. It's interesting they have, now I'm not sure if this is in order, but Raheem Sanders is last. I thought he's played well. So it's be interesting to see if he gets sent to the practice squad or if he plays so well on Saturday that they find a role for him on the 53. We have Matlock at fullback. I read something pretty interesting about Matlock on X today that he has been talking to Patrick Ricard from the Ravens, who is their fullback, about how to play the position. And what's interesting is that Matlock and Ricard share the same agent. So there is a somewhat of a triangle of connections there between Ricard, who the Ravens developed into that fullback, similarly to what they're trying to do at Matlock in this offense. Starters, they have McConkey and QJ. Don't know if QJ is going to be playing, so that's something to keep an eye on. Keenan Allen's going to be a big part of this offense, so even if it says backups, I don't think that's the case. Darius Davis, he's been playing well in training camp. There's a report out today that he had a couple big catches, so I think he's going to be in the mix in this offense as well, similarly to last year. Trey Harris, KLS, Brendan Rice, Jalen Reagor. I think Rice is not going to make the roster. I think Campbell may go to the practice squad. I don't think Jalen Johnson or Jaquay Jackson are going to make the roster. And Luke Grimm's interesting because in Saturday's game, he had a punt return for a touchdown. Hopefully we see a little more production out of him on Saturday, but he's a player to watch as the preseason wraps up and we have cuts next week. Tight ends, Will Dissly or Tyler Conklin. I think Conklin gets to start. I think he's definitely a physical tight end, but he can also catch. So just another added weapon for Herbert. Will Dissly is really not that guy. Yes, he had some catches last year, had some touchdowns, but If you're going to pick who is the more offensively rounded tight end, it's Conklin. On the offensive line, they have all left tackle, Pipkins at right tackle, which we knew. Our backups are Ryan Nelson, Corey Stewart, and David Sharp. It'll be interesting to see as cuts happen, and there's been this mix of a trade market of teams looking for players. If the Chargers do trade someone to get another offensive lineman, especially a tackle. So that's something to keep an eye out for. I think they're also going to keep an eye out for any interior offensive lineman because I think that's where the real holes are. So interior offensive lineman, you got Zion at left guard, Bozeman at center, Mekhi Becton at right guard. Mekhi Becton was participating in 11-on-11 drills today, which is a good sign. He wasn't practicing up to, I think, yesterday. He had been out since July where he'd been off to the side, but he started participating in drills yesterday, and then the report came out today from training camp that he was participating in 11-on-11 drills. So that's good to see. We are backups. You have Salyer, Branson Taylor, Andre James, Carson Barnhart, Nash Jones, and Josh Kaltenberger. I think Jeremy Salyer has a good chance of being a rotational piece in his offensive line. I've talked about him before. He's had a good preseason so far. He's had some starting time last year. So I think if Zion doesn't perform or Bozeman doesn't perform, they'll move Zion to center and they can put Jeremy Salyer into that left guard position. So that's something to keep an eye on as well, especially Saturday, see where he plays, and then as the season progresses. On to the defense. You have for interior defensive linemen, you have Deshaun Hand, Tier Tart, Otito Obonya, or Naquan Jones. Do I agree with this? Yes, but I think Jeremy Caldwell has earned a spot being a starter. So it'll be interesting to see how Saturday shakes out and then final cuts next week. But Caldwell has played well. I think he was a steal in the third round, and I think he deserves to start week 1. Edge rushers, Khalil Mack and Tui Tuipulotu. Backups they have on here, Bud Dupree, Caleb Murphy. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is the correct order, but Caleb Murphy has jumped Kyle Kennard based on this. Caleb Murphy has earned his spot this preseason. He's played extremely well. Kyle Kennard, being a 4th-round pick, he hasn't really shown up. Not really sure what the issue is, but Caleb Murphy deserves to be on this defense. Then we have Tremont Morris-Brash, Colin Guidry, and Germon Randolph. Inside linebackers, you have Denzel Perryman and Diane Henley. Backups, Troy Dye, Junior Colson, Delshawn Phillips, Kenai Mauga, Imani Johnson, and Marlo Wax. Marlo Wax got some praise from Derwin James during training camp. This is another interesting core to see as to who's on the 53-man and who isn't. Like I had mentioned before, Junior Colson has not played well. So this is definitely a position area to monitor from Saturday's game and then into next week. We got our corners. You got Terheap Still, Dante Jackson, or Cam Hart. Backups, Benjamin St. Just, Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard, Hemia Shelton, Weeks Bridges, Harrison Hand, Nico Reed, and Eric Rogers. I mean, Nico Reed and Eric Rogers have made their case this preseason to make this roster. But I think there's too many players in this position. I think, unfortunately, some cuts are going to be made, but I'd love to see Nico Reed and Eric Rogers make this roster. They've played extremely well. They've earned their spots. And the best part is they were undrafted rookie free agents, so that's even better. Safeties. You got DJ, Alohi Gilman, or Elijah Molden. And then backups, you got Tony Jefferson, Kendall Williamson, RJ Micken, Jalen Jones, and Miles Purchase. Miles Purchase played well this preseason as well. RJ Mickens has played well. He was one of their draft picks this year. Tony Jefferson balls out in the preseason, but he's kind of been that practice squad player, and they'll pull him up. Yeah, I mean, then you have your special teams, which we pretty much have solidified. At least for kick returners and punt returners, you have Darius Davis, and they have Hassan Haskins and KLS as a kick returner, and then punt returner Lat McConkey and KLS. So I think a lot of play going into Saturday is going to dictate who makes the roster and who doesn't. But I would like to see Saturday is I'd like to see more offensive defensive reps by the first string. I think 2 to 3 drives is enough. Maybe give Herbert the first quarter to play. I think Harbaugh is going to have a short lease, especially with QJ getting hurt. He doesn't want any more of his starters getting hurt. The same thing on defense, too. They had some nagging injuries last week. I think Alohi Gilman went down on the defense, but he's okay. I'd like to see some of these battles clear up, especially running back position between Kamani Vidal, Rocket Sanders, Naheem Hines, and you could throw in Hassan Haskins in the mix, but I think he's going to be more of the special teams type of player. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I think the wide receivers, we kind of have a picture of who that's going to be. Offensive line is going to be kind of a revolving door, but I would hope to see better play by the second string offensive linemen. last week's game was just atrocious. So that needs to be cleaned up, especially when injuries happen in the NFL. Need to have solid backup, so they need to play better. On the defensive side of the ball, I definitely want to see the linebacker spots develop. Like I said, Junior Colson hasn't played well. He was their 3rd-round pick last year. I want to see how that insider linebacker core plays out and what those PFF grades are after Saturday's game. Corners, I'm not a fan of Ben St. Just. I'm not a fan of Jasir Taylor. I think Minter had said that St. Just is going to be part of their starters, which, yeah, they signed him, but I'm not a fan of him. And then Jasir Taylor, we know we owe Jasir Taylor. So it'll be interesting to see how the corners pan out as Saturday's game finishes and into next week. But I think also on Saturday's game against the Niners, I think what the Chargers should do is have Heineke play. I think he almost played the whole half against the Rams, but I would like to see him play another 2 quarters if so. Especially he's going to be trade bait. Let other teams kind of see what he has left. And then next week, as you make cuts, if you can find a trade partner, trade him for some picks. But I think Trey Lance has that spot locked up. But I'm looking forward to Saturday. They're going to play the Niners. It's going to be a good matchup. The Niners played the Raiders last week, so I was watching some of that game. And the Niners won on a field goal with time expiring. So it'd be good to see a good matchup. Harbaugh back in San Fran, coaching against his old team, so that's always cool. I just want all the starters to stay healthy going into week 1. That Brazil game's coming up pretty damn quick, and we need all hands on deck to finally dethrone the Chiefs and start the season off 1-0 and beat a division opponent and beat Patrick Mahomes, who has almost been, you could call it Justin Herbert's kryptonite. And speaking of Justin Herbert, I will leave it at this. The rumor mill has circulated with him dating Madison Beer, who, by the way, I had no idea who she was until this week. I've heard her name, but I had no idea she was a musician. All I can say is this is either going to make or break Justin Herbert's season. If they break up, I think it's going to be tumultuous, but if they stay together, I think it's probably great for him, and maybe it propels him to an MVP season. I only hope for the best, and I would love to see more fans jump on the Bull train. So I think this is going to propel the Chargers into the national spotlight, similarly how everyone became a Chiefs fan last year because of Taylor Swift. But that remains to be seen. But also, can't be a bandwagon fan. If you're going to join the Bull Club, you're going to die a Bull fan. So that's all I have to say about that. So with that being said, be sure to like, subscribe to Electric Edge Podcast on YouTube. Follow me on X at Electric Edge Pod. And let me know in the comments, what do you think about the depth chart? What are your comments about the Rams and Chargers game? What are you looking forward to in the 49ers versus Chargers game? Let me know what you're thinking. If you agree, disagree with my analysis, my insight going into Saturday's game, let me know below. I read all my comments. I try to respond to every single one of you, so it's appreciated as always. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Go Chargers and bolt up.